Oh, hello. So let us review some questions for the upcoming exam. So first, what is the ratio of cosecant of A? Right over here. As you can see, cosecant of A is in fact equal to 1 over sine of A. Now, then from this given triangle, we have to figure out what the sine of A is equal to. Sine of A is equal to opposite, which is 7 over 25, which is the hypotenuse. Then our answer must be the reciprocal of that, which is 25 over 7, which is choice 2 would have been the answer. All right, let's look at number 2. In this case, they told us that JT is equal to 12 and JM is equal to 6. And in this case, we have to figure out what MT would have been equal to. So I'm going to call that as X. Then using the Pythagorean theorem, we can say 6 squared plus X squared is equal to 12 squared. Then as I rewrite them with the squared values, so this is the equation that we would end up getting. To find the value of X, we'll be subtracting 36 from both sides. Then X squared will be equal to 108. Now, of course, the value of X would have been equal to square root of 108. But if you had to simplify 108, it would have been equal to 36 and 3. So our answer is X is equal to 6 square root of 3. Now, not that this is a final answer. What we're looking for is cotangent of J. How do you find cotangent of J? That's the reciprocal of tangent. That means instead of having opposite over adjacent, we have to do adjacent over opposite from angle J. So we have to do 6 divided by 6 radical 3. When we simplify this one, we get 1 over radical 3. Multiplying top and bottom by radical 3, we'll end up getting radical 3 over 3, which is choice 1 will be our answer. Then let us look at number 3 here together. How do you find the tangent? Tangent line segment is in fact literally tangent to the circle. So we get CB or BC would have been the answer. All right, let's look at the next question. What is the value of sine of negative 240? So negative angle, that means we have to move clockwise. 240, that means we have to go all the way up here because this would have been 90. This one would have been 180 of the negative. Negative 90 and then negative 180. So we've gone farther than that. Then imagine that's negative 240. Since it's in second quadrant, is sine positive or negative? That's right, sine is positive. From all students who take calculus. Now then, what is our reference angle? Reference angle would have been, that's right, there would be 60 because up to here is 180 and then we have to go 240. So 240 minus 180 would have been 60. So we know that 60 would have been the our reference angle. Then what is sine of 60? That's equal to radical 3 over 2, which is choice 3. All right, let's move on to number 5. What is the value of tangent of 120? So 120 comes down on the second quadrant. And then knowing that reference angle, in this case, tangent in the second quadrant is negative, so we have negative tangent. And then reference angle is 60 degrees. So we just write down negative tangent of 60. So negative is negative, but what is tangent of 60? That's radical 3. So therefore, there it goes. Negative radical 3 becomes the answer. Number 6, tangent of negative 135. So negative 135 would have been this much of the angle. And then tangent in that quadrant, third quadrant, is positive. So our answer will be tangent. And we have to find the reference angle. That reference angle, as you can see, is in fact equal to 45. So therefore, tangent of 45. What is tangent of 45? That's equal to 1. So 1 is our final answer. All right, let's look at number 7. They want us to find the value of x on the unit circle. You see, X, we know that to be equal to cosine. So that means we are looking at cosine of 120. Then cosine of 120, since it's on the second quadrant, cosine is negative. And then reference angle here is equal to 60. So we get cosine of 120 is equal to negative cosine of 60. And then cosine of 60, we know that to be equal to 1/2. So negative 1/2 becomes our answer, which is choice 3. All right, let's move on to the next question. Sine of 190, it's on the third quadrant, hence sine is negative. And the reference angle is equal to 10, so we get negative sine of 10 degrees. That becomes our answer. Tangent of negative 240, same deal. We have to move all the way up there. Since it's a negative, we have to go for clockwise. And we end up being on the second quadrant. So therefore, we realize that tangent has to be negative. And then what's our reference angle? Reference angle is 60 degrees. So we get a negative tangent of 60, which is choice 3. All right. Number 10, cosine of negative 155 as a function of positive acute angle. So that basically means we have to use a reference angle to express this one. Negative 155 will in fact land on third quadrant. And tangent on the third quadrant, we know that to be equal to negative, and then reference angle is 25. So knowing that, our final answer is negative cosine of 25 degrees. That becomes the answer. Now, number 11 is about co-function. So now, as you can see over here, sine and cosine, they will have the same value of a. The values will be the same when the angles add up to 90, because they're co-functions. Then we get to realize that 15a is equal to 90, and then value of a must be equal to 6. So therefore, our answer is 6, choice 1. Number 12, once again, co-functions here. Then when you add up those two, it should be equal to 90. And that's what I'm doing here. Then we get to realize that 2x plus 30 must be equal to 90. Then x must be equal to 30. All right, very nice. Number 13, sine is positive, while secant is negative. Okay, sine being positive, then we are looking at these two quadrants. But what is secant? Secant, we know that to be equal to 1 over cosine. So 1 over cosine theta has to be equal to less than 0. Since the numerator is 1, the fact the whole thing is negative, that means cosine must be negative as well, which is second and third quadrant. So our answer must be second quadrant, which satisfies both of them. The choice 2 becomes the answer. Number 14. So in this case, you get to realize that tangent is 2.7. That means it's positive, so which is first and third. But cosecant is negative. That means we're looking at 1 over sine is negative, which is the same thing as sine itself being negative, which is choice 3 for the third quadrant. Same deal, sine is negative, third and fourth. But on the other hand, cosine is positive, so first and fourth, choice 4. Rather simple. Now let's go for number 16. Cosine is negative, so therefore we are looking at those two angles, second quadrant and then third quadrant. And then the value is equal to radical 3 over 2. That means our reference angle must be 60. Not 60, 30 degrees, yes. So we could have 130 degrees over here in that way, which is equal to 150. Now, then let us move on to the next question, number 17. Sine of x is equal to this value, while cosine of x is equal to this value. What is the measure of x? So you know that sine is negative on third and fourth, and cosine is positive on fourth and 1. That means our answer should be on the fourth quadrant. While the reference angle here for sine ratio to be radical 2 over 2 is equal to 45 degrees. So the small sector is in fact 45 degrees. So our final answer should be 315. Now, what is the measure of the angle theta? So we get to see that portion. But we see the clue from the unit circle and then values of x and y. Since x that I have circled here is in fact equal to cosine, so cosine of an angle is equal to negative radical 3 over 2. Now, let's look at the reference angle. Is equal to 30. So cosine of 30 is equal to radical 3 over 2. This one has to be memorized, of course. And then, all right, so our angle would have been equal to 210. Choice 1. Arc cosine of radical 2 over 2 simply means cosine of the angle that's given is equal to radical 2 over 2. And in that case, what do you realize about the angle? For what angle is cosine equal to radical 2 over 2? That's 45 degrees. So then you can see the tangent of 45 degrees must be equal to 1. And that becomes our answer. Number 20. A similar deal. So cosine is negative. That means second and third. Sine is positive. That means first and second. So we're looking at the second quadrant. And then second quadrant in the is equal to tangent is negative. Now I'm going to draw the triangle looking at this ratio here. 13 and 5. That's what I realized about the cosine of that angle. And the missing side here can be found by 5, 12, 13 triple ratio, or you can use simple Pythagorean theorem. Now tangent is opposite over adjacent, so we get 12 over 5 becomes our answer. Now number 21, this basically means angle whose sine ratio is 3 over 5. So let us try to draw the triangle here. Then sine is the opposite over hypotenuse, which is 5. And you know that this is a 3, something 5, that means we know the missing side is equal to 4. Since tangent is the opposite over adjacent, we get to realize that 3 is the opposite, adjacent is 4. So 3 over 4 becomes our final answer. All right, let's look at number 22, same deal. I'm looking at arc sine of 4/5. That means triangle whose sine ratio must be 4 and 5, which is, as you can see over here. So 4 and 5, that means the other side must be 3. So we get 3 over 5 becomes the cosine of that angle. All right, let's move on to the next question. Number 23. All right, so to find the value of x, we're going to subtract 1 from each side. Then we get radical 3, tangent x is equal to negative 1. All right, and then obviously I'll be dividing each side by radical 3. Then tangent x is equal to negative 1 over radical 3. To rationalize the denominator, we get to multiply top and bottom by radical 3. Then negative radical 3 becomes the numerator and the denominator is 3. But what's the value of x? Since it's a negative, we get to realize that it will be on quadrant 2 and 4. Since the tangent value itself becomes radical 3 over 3, that means 30 degrees. So there it goes, we get 150 becomes our answer, which is choice 4. Now let's move on to the next question, number 24. An angle in quadrant 1 has that one. So what we can do is we can try to factor tangent, and then tangent must be greater than 0 here, as you can see. Using the difference of squares, we get tangent theta plus 2 and tangent theta minus 2 is equal to 0. Then here we get tangent theta must be equal to negative 2 or positive 2 here. Now, since it has been first quadrant, tangent theta has to be greater than 0, so we will be using this one. Second tangent or arctangent of 2 is about 63 degrees. So that's why our answer is choice 3. Now let's look at number 25. When you solve for the angle here, first you need to factor, or you can even use the quadratic formula if you want to choose to do so. Alright, so I'm just going to factor. So multiply first number by last number, which is negative 6. Now, which two numbers multiply to negative 6 but add up to negative 5, which is a middle number? Yes, it will be negative 6 and 1. Then I can rewrite down the given equation using those two numbers over here. Notice that I used 1 over here, and then negative 6 sine theta minus 3 is equal to 0. Then when I factor out sine theta from the first one, we get 2 sine theta plus 1 is what's left. And from the second one, if I have to factor out negative 3, then we get 2 sine theta plus 1 becomes the answer. Now, notice that 2 sine theta plus 1 is common in both cases. So when we factor that out, then we get to realize that sine theta minus 3 is equal to 0 as well. Alright, so then sine theta from the first factor must be negative 1/2. Second one should be 3. But why are we rejecting 3? Because maximum the sine or cosine could be is 1 or negative 1. So sine theta has to be equal to negative 2. But what we are looking for is theta, not sine theta. So therefore, what we need to do is sine is negative. Then we're looking at third and fourth quadrant. The value is 1/2. That means reference angle must be 30 degrees. So I wrote down 30 degrees here. Then first one would have been 210. Second one would have been 330. So only correct answer at this point is choice 2 becomes the answer. Let's look at the last one. Number 26. So first we're going to factor. Cosine x is common in both cases. So we get cosine x minus 2 equal to 0. That means cosine x has to be equal to 0, or cosine x has to be equal to 2. So the second parenthesis here can be equal to 0 as well. But cosine cannot be greater than or less than negative 1 or negative 1. So therefore, cosine being equal to 2, that's not possible. Then for which angle is cosine equal to 0? So in case if you forgot, then you can memorize it in this way. So you can see that COS, that's cosine, which means in the middle you have 0 and 0, and on the right you have 1, on the left you have negative 1. Then for what angle is cosine equal to 0? Right over there, which is when x equals 90 degrees. Alright, that's it. So, good luck. Have a great day. Bye-bye.